Oh, hello there. Yes. Do you know there are 352 Conservative MPs, and yet there are nearly 125,000 social workers in the UK? Very big difference between those numbers, isn't there? Yes, a bit meaningless, really. When you compare two different jobs, it becomes meaningless. Now, there is definitely a correlation between the number of social workers and the number of Conservative MPs, because there used to be a lot more social workers up until about 2010, and then they sort of disappeared for some reason or other. Anyway, yesterday we had the less than edifying spectacle of an offshoot of the Free Speech Union trying to whip up a media frenzy. Didn't quite work on the number of equality, diversity and inclusion officers at universities compared to the number of free speech officers, which it's fine, you can throw numbers around, 515 versus 5, but the problem is they're different jobs, aren't they? One of which is HR and the other one isn't. So it was all a bit meaningless, really. If you actually do some digging into the alumni for free speech, they are simply an offshoot. They are yet another one of the sort of Toby Young's attempts to sort of astroturf various groups into pretending that they somehow represent anyone other than Toby Young. This is sort of quite a common tactic on the right, whereby they will have all of these different groups together and they will pretend that they are somehow a broad spectrum. And we had another one of these yesterday from Guido Fawkes, who was sort of bemoaning the once again the Toby Young style myth of Tufton Street, because they were thinking, or they were showing the amount of left-wingers that are employed in left-wing think tanks compared to right-wing think tanks. And if you just take a brief look at it, the problem is that the left-wing think tanks that they suggest aren't really actually left-wing. They are basically centrists, which is a small problem. There are various right-wing think tanks that I'm absolutely convinced employ quite a few people that are not mentioned here. And the big difference, obviously, between them and the alleged left-wing ones are you never see the left-wing ones outside of fairly specialised programmes on BBC Radio 4. The Resolution Foundation, for example, has a social policy remit, but it is overtly centrist in by anyone's reasoning, and if you actually go on look on their website, they are very, very opaque about their funding, unlike the Tufton Street lot. And Guido Fawkes was also suggesting that because the Tony Blair Institute, of the 79 million quid that he's quoting there, the Tony Blair Institute accounts to basically about £70 million worth of it. But you will never see anyone on mainstream British media from the Tony Blair Institute. It just isn't a thing on British media. Why? Because they aren't going to come out with anything that's going to be vastly different from what you see from all the other right-wing think tanks, because they're a right-wing think tank. It's Tony Blair. Anyway, yes. Anyway, that was sort of one of those weird media damp squib stories yesterday. But it's really intriguing the way that they've now got to try and persuade us that the things that we know are obviously real obviously aren't, in some spurious way. Yeah, I don't know. It's intriguing. Anyway, heading vastly through the week. I've just about got my timetable sorted out, I'm pleased to say, and it looks like I've picked up quite a lot more sociology work, so hurrah for that, and indeed hurrah for Guido Fawkes and his pie charts. Do enjoy the rest of the